Since 1659, Norwich has played a very important role in several revolutions. Most people only focus on one, the American Revolution. While the American Revolution is the biggest and most well known, it is not the only revolution to occur in this long lasting Connecticut town. If you go to downtown Norwich onto the corner of Chestnut and Willow adjacent to Norwich City Hall, you will find yourself in the center of decades of theater history. This history includes many changes, including location, types of theater, and leadership. Since the 1890s, the Broadway block of Norwich, Connecticut has functioned as the city's entertainment hub. The repeated transformations of the theaters and nearby businesses show evolution as the community has responded to shifting demographics and other outside factors. The first theater in this block's history was known as the Broadway Theater. It was built in 1890 on the corner of Willow and Broadway. This theater was important. It served as a cultural wellspring for the town and was a nursery for shows that had high hopes of being brought to New York City. Theater critics believed that if a show was successful in Norwich, then it could be successful anywhere. The theater was described as majestic and elegant in its design. The building itself required over 1 million bricks to construct. The front of the building was a 70-foot facade with an 80-foot high tower. The design incorporated both architecture from the Victorian era and New York theaters. Not only was the exterior of the theater extravagant, but so was the interior. Inside the theater, there was a 1,350-person capacity. This included 2 large balconies and 12 private viewing boxes. Throughout the entire building was a carpet upholstery. 600 lights were used to illuminate the performance hall. The actors had just as many luxuries as the patrons. There were 16 dressing rooms, and performances took place on a 40 by 60-foot stage. The contract to build the theater was signed on Tuesday, June 10, 1890, and allowed for immediate construction. One of the most important tasks was naming the theater. The name, the Broadway Theater, was chosen for 2 reasons. It was located on Broadway, and it was designed after Broadway theaters. Local newspapers reported that this name was popular and well-liked by the community. The Broadway Theater's first production was Amoreto, which opened on December 6, 1890. Box tickets cost between $8 and $13. Today, this would be between $285 and $463. Seats in the balcony and orchestras sold for 35 cents to $2, equivalent to $12 and $71 today. The opera had nothing but good reviews in the paper. This was the precedent for the theater. Each following production would be as successful as the one before it. This would continue until 1942, when the theater was sold to the Low Poly movie theater chain. The theater was turned into a movie theater and will remain one for the next 7 years. After this, the corporation would close down the theater in 1949 to open a new one on the corner of Main and Cliff in a different part of town. Unfortunately, the building would be torn down soon thereafter in October of 1953. Today, the location is now a parking garage that is open to the public. One of its most frequent uses is for actors and patrons to access the current community theater located down the street. Southeast from the location of the Old Broadway Theater, you will come across the Old Central Firehouse building located at 24 Chestnut Street. The building was built in 1902. It is a Queen Anne-style building which, after several renovations, appears both historic and modernized. The facade of the building has changed many times over the decades. Though modern windows have been installed, the shape and trim still remains true to the original design of the garage doors used to store the horse-drawn fire engines and then early models of the fire truck. The building played a very important role in the town. This was the headquarters for the fire department. When construction began in 1902, the population of Norwich was approximately 24,000. By 1970, it had doubled to 42,000. The city was beginning to outgrow the old headquarters and was in need of modernization. To ensure safety for the rapidly growing city, the headquarters shut down the building and moved into a newly built and modern building in 1995. The old Central Firehouse sat vacant for years. Across the street in what was the basement of the ArtSpace apartment complex, the Spirit of Broadway Community Theater was performing. In 2007, Best Productions Company saw the old building potential and purchased the Old Central Firehouse and moved in. The firehouse was reformed into a community theater. The Spirit of Broadway was founded in 1997 by Brett Bernardini. The goal of the theater was to produce new and upcoming works with the hopes for them to end up on Broadway. Although it was technically a community theater, professional actors were often hired as lead performers. The theater shared a mission with its namesake, the Old Broadway Theater.
Again, Spirit was it was brand new works. It was also all professional. It was a professional theater. We had actors who came in from New York City on a constant basis when it was Spirit of Broadway. There would be at least 3 actors who came in from out of state, and then the rest of us would be locals.
In 2015, theater leadership changed hands and the Spirit of Broadway would become what is now known as Chestnut Street Playhouse. In response to the growing diverse community, the mission of the new theater became to nurture the community and the artists with affordable, high-quality theater. Instead of nurturing art to make it to Broadway, Chestnut's stated mission is to nurture local artists and build the community. In a time where art and performance is being oppressed, this continues to be important for the city. The theater still stands and is very involved in the community because of its mission. Participants collaborate with many businesses and communities in the town and provide a second family for the people that participate there. In response to a growing demand in the community, the theater produces mostly popular musicals and plays once popular on Broadway. However, it also holds the values of what came before it and produces new local works and opportunities for local playwrights. This can be seen in the most recent season with All the Unimportant Things, The Lady Killing of Chattanooga, and the annual Playwrights Fest, all of which feature local playwrights.
I feel like Chestnut Street has created an environment where people who share the same values and are creative and want to tell stories and connect with each other and the world around them through theater and art. I think CSP has created an environment that fosters that.
Since the Broadway Theater was built in 1890, the theater community on the small Norwich block has grown and evolved in response to the changing and growing local community. Across the world, theater has always provided a place for community, freedom, and expression, but not always in an inclusive and accepting way. Since the Broadway Theater, the block has reformed in response to the changing population. Here, the community has strengthened the goals and missions to provide a place for freedom of expression for all stakeholders, regardless of gender, race, or sexual identity.
Chestnut Street Playhouse has, it's given me a community, it's given me friends, chosen family, really. It's been my home away from home, my school, my refuge, I guess, for the last almost 13 years now. I'm just always here, and I'll be here as long as I can be.
Growing up, I've always been sort of on the outside, looking in, always trying to find my place, always trying to find somewhere that I kind of belonged. And I think finding theater and finding the Chestnut in general has made me see that there are people like me around that I mesh with, that we can create.
Locations, leaderships, buildings, and times have changed, but throughout all of this, the theater community remains as an important part of the city's culture. Together, the community has strengthened the goals and missions throughout time and stood together as one, no matter what was happening in the outside world.